Hello, my name is Lola, and I'm going to be reacting to Wolf Creek 2005 Kill Count by Dead Meat. I have actually never seen this movie before. Somebody had told me that this is actually based off of actual true story, something that actually happened in Australia. I was like, what? And yeah, see how many kills there are in this one. And if you want to like, comment, subscribe my channel, you can. If you don't want to, that's fine too. Here we go.
G'day mates, and welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies. I'm James A. Janice, and I apologize for that accent. Today we're looking at Wolf Creek, an Australian film from 2005. Wolf Creek follows a trio of backpackers exploring the Australian outback. They end up having to deal with Mick Taylor, the most sadistic psycho in the Southern Hemisphere. And I want to underline that this is a bad man, and this movie might not be for everyone. It is intensely nasty and upsetting, and includes several threats of sexual assault. Roger Ebert once said, "There is a line, and this movie crosses it." And yet, for as nasty as it is, I'm a pretty big fan of Wolf Creek. I usually don't like movies that are too mean-spirited, especially ones made in the mid-2000s, my least favorite era. But Wolf Creek is gorgeously shot, showing us Australian landscapes in beautiful lighting, and it features relatable, enjoyable protagonists. In some ways, they're your average horror victims. Young, attractive party people who are out looking for a good time. But they're also sincere, kind-hearted, and resourceful when shit hits the fan. And then there's Mick Taylor, the grossly charismatic murderer. Australian writer-director Greg McLean, who would go on to direct The Belko Experiment, wanted to create an iconic horror villain for his country. He based Mick Taylor on world-famous Australian stereotypes, like Crocodile Dundee, but with an evil twist inspired by real-life Australian murderers.
It's the boogeyman kind of thing. We wanted to create an Australian boogeyman.
Taylor's played unforgettably by John Jarratt, who, full disclosure, had some allegations against him a few years ago. Jarratt said he was innocent, and it went to court, where he was acquitted after a jury found him not guilty. That's all I feel comfortable saying about the case, so if you need to, you can look it up yourself. Wolf Creek owes just as much to Tobe Hooper as it does Steve Irwin. This might as well be called the Outback Boomerang Massacre, with its sun-soaked cinematography and scenic stroll before the horror begins. Make no mistake, this movie is a slow burn. For the first 35 minutes, hardly anything happens at all. It's a leisurely introduction to likable characters, but that makes the horror more upsetting when it finally happens. It really works for me, and outside of the Saw franchise, Wolf Creek is probably my favorite of the so-called torture porn subgenre. In fact, I'd call this torture cinema. I like the movie even more after watching the 50-minute making-of documentary by producer Matt Hearn. It showed how this was a passionate production by a director repeatedly described as creative, organized, and technically talented. Everyone on Greg McLean's small cast and crew sang his praises.
He's one of the best directors I've ever worked with.
McLean had a clear vision for this movie and communicated it to the people he was working with.
You're only as good as the people you work with.
They, in turn, put their full faith in him, resulting in everyone delivering quality craftsmanship all around. Speaking of quality craftsmanship, today's sponsor is Dr. Squatch. My hygiene's important to me, and it should be to you, too. After all, you don't want to meet a murderous psychopath smelling anything less than exceptional, right? That's just bad manners, mate. Dr. Squatch makes soap bars, deodorants, and hair care that'll ensure you're always smelling out of this world. And Dr. Squatch's products are made from 98% natural ingredients. Makes me feel like I should be doing this ad outside in the great outdoors. Or my backyard, at least. Alright, let it rip! Ah yes, who needs a fancy shower to freshen up when you have the cleaning power of Squatch? First I'll suds myself up with this spearmint basil bar, then it's time to tame the mane with their shampoo. And finally, gotta keep those pits pristine with their deodorant. Psychopath safe. If you want to try Dr. Squatch for yourself, just go to the link below. And new customers can get 20% off on orders that are $20 or more by using promo code DSQDeadMeat. Now grab yourself a coldie and let's get to the bloody kills.
Hey man, James, chill out, man. Coming out here butt naked. Man, what's your wife Chelsea gonna say, man? Chill with that, man. And also, he does look good in flannel too. He pulls it off really well. To kill.
The movie begins with a warning that this is based on a true story. Like with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that's only partly true. I'll point out the true crime details later, but for now, how about that view? Three backpackers are preparing for a trip across northern Australia. Ben Mitchell is an easygoing native Australian who has to secure them a shitty car from a casually sexist guy.
I get real easy when they travel.
Though he may not be confrontational about it, Ben's hashtag not all blokes doesn't keep him from having an acute love triangle with his travel partners, both tourists from the UK, the fancy-free Christy Earle and the more straight-laced Liz Hunter. They celebrate their imminent voyage with a party so hard, someone ordered a cake for it. Oh shit, Ben, watch your head, dude. That pool is not wide enough for all that. Their good time splash around goes late into the night, and in the morning, it looks like Ben and Christy spent the night together. But they slept head to toe, so maybe there was no funny business. Liz is none the wiser either way, having spent the night with her shellfish lover, the ocean. Still got time for a quickie before they leave. This scene was absent from Wolf Creek's theatrical release, but let me tell you, that version is hard to find. I always try to use the theatrical cuts for the kill count, but with this movie, I had to go with the much more accessible and widespread unrated version, which is 5 minutes longer. The trio rendezvous at the station wagon, and one nifty rack focus later, these road warriors take off down the Fury Road. It's beautiful country, perfect for landscape shots and a road trip montage. We're talking duets in the front seat, bare feet on the dashboard, checking each other for cavities. Everything you might want in a mid-2000s sizzle reel Pepsi pitch. After they pass the Powerpuff Girls and the happy giant with broken knees, Liz spots a last-ditch detour for petrol and makes a wrong turn to a rundown servo/restaurant. If there were hills around, I'd bet they'd have eyes. And what harbinger of doom awaits our wayward youths?
Hello.
A guy named Graham. But Graham Cracker's not the person they've got to worry about here. Inside, Liz gets leered at by men who speak about her in disgusting ways.
She's only a little one, isn't she? I think it'll break that one up real quickly, eh?
Et tu, Outback Santa? Ben steps in to defend her honor, but is forced to make peace, not war, when confronted by this huge jacked man. This scene helps establish how out of their element our heroes are.
I should have Tai Chi'd his ass.
They're good people, but outmatched in this Outback. Ben wanted to stand up more for his friends, but it'd mean a likely ass beating, and that sucks. They leave and are hit with an unusual Australian sprinkle. Wolf Creek was filmed over 5 weeks in South Australia, around the Flinders Ranges north of Adelaide. This place was drought central and hadn't seen rain in 10 years, so imagine the filmmakers' surprise when they faced rain during 21 of their 25 shooting days.
Shit creek. Shit creek.
Damn.
We're right up at it.
McLean was ultimately forced to rewrite the script to acknowledge the weather.
Weather's shit.
The adaptation worked, with the change in weather matching the change in these characters' fortunes.
In the end, it was yet another vibe moment. It was just, you know, it was amazing.
Making a problem into a solution.
Their wet-hot Australian summer continues as they spot a sign for Wolf Creek Crater. They grab the goon and start walking to the titular landscape feature. There is a real-life Wolf Creek, but it's in Western Australia, over 1,000 miles away from where they filmed. It's also spelled with an E, which is lacking from this movie's title. Production got some shots of the real-life crater, and it's intercut here with everything else that was filmed in South Australia. If you're like me and love how this movie looks, well, say hello to director of photography Will Gibson.
Hello.
Gibson brought his experience making documentaries, as well as working with both film and video, to make Wolf Creek feel simultaneously cinematic and authentic. He had to convince director McLean not to shoot on mini DV, promising that he could make HD feel just as real. McLean was happy to have had his mind changed.
I'm going to become the new spokesman for high def worldwide because it is so cool.
Liz takes off for a solo hike, and since Christy told Ben that Liz is fancying him, he takes the hint and catches up to her. Ben admires the view, and also the crater, and before long, he and Liz are smooching and giggling. Nathan Phillips was excited to play Ben, partly because of romantic moments like this one. His chemistry with both his co-stars helps add to how refreshingly likable they are. With the love triangle now simplified to a love line and unconnected love dot, the travelers regroup and discover their car is dead. Since this pack's son Obi-Wan only knows how to fix land speeders, they're stuck in this broken down piece of shit car when some mysterious lights appear on the horizon. Finally, 37 minutes into the movie, it's time for Mick Taylor to make his entrance.
What the bloody hell are you mob doing out here? Scared the shit out of me.
He came to wreck everything and ruin their lives. God sent him. John Jarratt was McLean's first and only choice for the role, a decision he made 10 minutes after meeting him. A veteran Aussie actor who was in Picnic at Hanging Rock, Jarratt, who's been in several other Aussie horror films, loved the script and was happy to sign on for the part.
Best script I think I've read. Full stop.
Jarratt fully invested himself in the role, sometimes continuing to act after cuts. Dude didn't shower for 6 weeks so he could fully embody the character.
I had to have Mick about me because John Jarratt just couldn't couldn't get there.
Mick Taylor is an old-fashioned, rugged outback man who clashes with Ben's sensitive city ways. He makes a homophobic remark when Ben says he's from Sydney.
Hoof, the capital of Australia.
Despite the culture clash, they're forced to rely on Mick and his mechanical knowledge. He says their car is kaput and that to fix it, they'll have to go to his workshop down the road, which in Australian could mean 100 meters or 100 kilometers. Although he's offering to help them, Taylor is immediately unnerving. He's uncomfortably aggressive, even when he's ostensibly being nice.
Of course I'm not going to charge you, you stupid bastard, hey?
Mick Taylor's mechanic ruse was also the MO of Bradley John Murdoch, a real-life Australian killer who murdered English backpacker Peter Falconio in 2001. Murdoch's case was so similar to Wolf Creek that the Northern Territory government delayed the movie's release there so it couldn't influence the trial. They take a very long drive that gives the ladies some concern, but eventually arrive at Mick's mining camp, where the travelers have a talk about and enjoy his drink of choice.
Nothing like rainwater from the top end.
Mick mentions his previous job exterminating wildlife for local farmers. He's a bit too cheery about the details.
Now, pigs were different. You have to get in close, get the dogs onto them, and then you go in with a knife.
When Mick mentions a knife, Ben can't help but worsen the cultural divide by going all in on the stereotypes and comparing Taylor to another Australian Mick.
That's not a knife.
That's
This is a knife.
Is this Yahoo serious? Mick responds by trying to explode him with his mind. For all the famous characters he could have pulled from, like Paul Hogan's Crocodile Dundee, Jared actually based his performance on his own father.
He was an outback, bushy, very funny, larger-than-life larrikin, but he wasn't a psychopathic murderer or anything. So.
Things get even more tense when Liz asks Mick about a cuddlier Australian mascot.
I'm doing people a service, taking out a few roos. They're everywhere out here now. Like tourists.
Sensing that things are going south, Liz makes sure to sincerely thank Taylor for his help.
No worries.
But it's yes worries for Liz. She falls asleep by the fire and wakes up gagged in a dirty shed. This movie has suffered a sea change. Halfway through, we've arrived at the horror, and Liz will be the first person we follow and root for. After cutting herself loose with broken glass, Liz finds their lemon of a car completely dismantled, with no sign of Ben or Christy anywhere. Never mind. Liz follows Christy's shrieks to a corrugated shack and peeks inside to see what Mick keeps in this awful place of awfulness. There are meat hooks, guns, a dead animal of some kind, and Christy, tied up and screaming hysterically. Taylor terrorizes her and belittles her lack of gun knowledge.
Well, nothing happens when the bolt's open, you see.
Christie's actor Kesty Marassi screams so long and so well on set that it left a lot of the crew feeling miserable.
She was in a hell of a zone for 3 or 4, 5 days.
Even editor Jason Ballantine said he couldn't handle listening to the constant screaming for days. To give himself a soul cleanse, he'd edit scenes with farts cut in.
And as childish as it may be, fart gags are incredibly funny in the wee hours of the morning, and so we did get into recutting some scenes with a few farts.
Mick's not only into torture either, as he threatens to rape Christy with a disgusting sadistic glee. To help her friend, Liz starts a garbage fire that lures Mick out of the shack. While he's outside, Liz sneaks inside and comes face to stump with a headless corpse. It's not a full bastard skelly yet, so I guess I have to include it on the count. When Mick comes back inside to continue torturing Christy, Liz corners him with his own hunting rifle. He tries to talk her down with an impassioned plea for gun control.
Now, Lizzie, a rifle in the wrong hands can be, really dangerous, so...
I love how Liz really tries to shoot him dead, even though she only grazes him. She even goes for the double tap, but the gun's out of ammo. Damn. Still, gotta respect the gun butts for good measure. Liz takes the keys and Christy and prepares to get the hell out of Dodge. When Mick returns with a shotgun to stop them from leaving, they scare him off while installing a new bay window in his shack. They flee the crash zone, but it doesn't take long in the pitch black outback before headlights appear from behind. So Liz pulls a Malignant and then yeets the truck off a cliff. The survivors hide out cliffside until Mick leaves to mourn his whip. Christy is too traumatized to return to Mick's not-so-nice house and stays in the Sutherland, while Liz heads back alone, hoping to find another car and maybe possibly Ben also. Mick's compound was built from the ground up in a dugout by the production design team led by Robert Webb. Webb was a local South Australian and was able to get them anything needed from his contacts, including an actual human skull.
That's someone's great-grandfather's skull from Central Europe.
And they lent it to you?
And they've lent it to me.
At the compound, Liz finds Mick's collection of missing persons reports. evidence. She also finds his garage. Turns out Jay Leno ain't got shit on Mick. He's kept every vehicle, as well as every backpack, passport, and camera of every wanderer he's killed. I'm sure he's been meaning to post it all on eBay, but, you know, hard to find the time with all the murder. Liz rummages through the camcorders and finds one that still turns on. Looks like this family sprung for the good batteries, but maybe not the good rental car, since the tape shows Mick extending them familiar hospitality.
Nothing like rainwater from the top end.
Remember, kids, never drink gutter runoff with strangers. Liz rewinds Ben's tape for one last look at Graham, only to realize that Mick has tracked them all the way from the servo. In earlier drafts of Wolf Creek, Liz, Ben, and Christy were just 3 more home video victims. To fit their small budget of $1.5 million, McLean made their trip the entire movie.
Low budget. Cool.
Liz gives up on the memories and matches key to car. Against all odds, her ride of choice starts. Unfortunately, she's got a hitchhiker. His stab to her back sends her to the ground, where she pulls out a pocket knife to defend herself with. But all that does is set him up for a callback.
That's not a knife. This is a knife.
In what may be the cruelest moment we see from this condescending killer, he stabs into Liz's spine, severing her spinal cord and turning her into a, well,
head on a stick.
Though she's still alive last we see her, she's reported as missing at the end of the movie, so I think it's safe to sadly say Liz and Taylor's last summer has suddenly ended. While it was faked on set using a real pig carcass, the literally unnerving head on a stick move is sadly all too real. It was inspired by Ivan Milat, an Australian serial killer commonly known as the backpack murderer. From 1989 to 1993, he claimed 7 backpackers' lives aged 19 to 22 and paralyzed some of them in this manner. He also collected their belongings, including backpacks and cameras, another detail borrowed for this film. Christy notices that Liz has been gone for a considerable chunk of the movie, so she assumes the worst and runs, hoping to get home and or away. More beautiful shots of the sprawling outback here, which was considered a sort of 5th character in the film. It's a terrifying setting because of its desolation. The sequence is also one of many that showcases Francois Titez's score. McLean wanted music that neither took away from nor telegraphed the terror, so Titez composed pieces that fit in with the movie's ambient horror. On a road, Christy's found by a kindly old man who's either way too late or way too early to be wearing a fuzzy bucket hat. He offers her safety and salvation, but before long, he's left trying to figure out what jerk hates his thermos can. The guy gets sniped in the eye from afar, another Samaritan killed in a horror movie for being good. Christy doesn't waste time mourning and speeds off as soon as she sees Mad Mick coming in hot. The two stylo it out, and he makes lewd gestures because he's a real son of a bitch. But his 6 cylinders lose out to her spirit and a good fender, and she's able to run him off the road, causing a bit of a bingo. Her satisfaction is short-lived. Just when she thinks she's in the clear, Mick calmly pulls out his rifle and blows out her back tire, sending the car crashing on the side of the road.
The winner.
This car stunt was performed by Paul Lightfoot, brother of the movie's producer David Lightfoot, with their sister acting as set nurse.
You're gonna try and kill my little brother this afternoon!
Great work on the stunt, Paul. I was sad to learn that producer David Lightfoot passed away last year of a heart attack, way too young at 61. Rest in peace. When he reaches the wreckage, Mick watches Christy crawl away for a while before impassively shooting her from the hip. No more games and no more giggles from this guy. Just one more bullet to make sure she's dead. God damn it, this is miserable. One more shout out to the lead actresses, Kesty Marassi and Cassandra McGrath. Roles like theirs are exhausting, having to constantly act out a state of terror, but they'd often nail their takes on the first go, which McLean credits for helping get the movie shot on schedule. Also an asset in that regard was cinematographer Will Gibson, who McLean called a human dolly. Dude would do all sorts of stunt shoots, affixed to vehicles and hanging off of ledges to get his shots. That's awesome, man. Mick gives Christy and the older guy a good Jedi funeral, and I guess that about does it for Wolf Creek. So let's get to the oh shit, I forgot about Ben! This supermassive game continues by switching to our last remaining playable character. He wakes up crucified in a wing of Mick's dungeon next to another tourist who won't be seeing the sights anymore. The blood still looks wet, so I'm obligated to count it. Like I said, it's a long-standing rule to count fresh dead meat. Ben is sick of these motherfucking nails through his motherfucking wrists, so he pulls his arm off of them in what I believe was the last shots filmed during production. Great use of practical effects by the prosthetics team led by Rick Conway Donnelly, who also made the headless corpse in Mick's shack. Freed from his crucifixion, Ben busts out of the cave like it's Easter Sunday. He drools his way across some postcards before passing out from exhaustion beyond the black stump. He's roused from his nap by a fedoraed silhouette, but lucky for Ben, this time it's just a couple of German tourists. They drive him to Kalbarri for medical attention, and the last we see him, Ben's being taken into custody on suspicions of murdering his friends. Thankfully, some text at the end says he avoided a booting sentence and was cleared of all charges. The movie ends with Mick Taylor walking into the Australian sunset, cross-dissolving his way to an eventual sequel. How many blokes got choked and Sheila's got keeled? Let's find out and get to the... Whoa.
Oh.
Whoa, what the... Oh, fuck!
That's all right. I'll get you in the Wolf Creek 2 to the numbers.
Oh, we're not doing Wolf Creek 2 right now.
Oh, bloody hell!
I know, Zoran, I know.
5 people died in Wolf Creek. 2 were men and 3 were women, with this entire pie chart baked courtesy of Mick Taylor. You know, this exact same count and breakdown was only seen 3 times before in kill count history. Huh. With a runtime of 104 minutes, we had a kill on average every 20.8 minutes. I'll give the golden chainsaw for coolest kill to Liz. I hate that she goes through this because I really like the character, but it's hard to ignore how memorable and disturbing the head on a stick is. Dull machete for lamest kill goes to either of the 2 unknown bodies. I didn't even want to count them. And that's it. Wolf Creek came out in 2005 and was followed by a sequel 8 years later. There are also 2 prequel novels co-written by McLean and 2 seasons of a TV series streaming on Shudder. A 3rd film is also potentially in the works, so maybe I'll do Wolf Creek 2 when that's about to come out. For now, I'm moving on to the Child's Play recounts. Until then, I'm James A. Janice. This has been the Kill Count.
On the next Kill Count.
And now a very important good guy message just for you.
Hey little meaties, in less than 3 days we're starting our recount of the Chucky movies. Wow! That's right, all 7 movies and the TV show just in time for the new season. Aren't you excited?
Yeah. Now let's get to the fucking trailer, you nightmare-fueled mascot thing. Child's Play is the film that made Chucky a household name. His real name is Charles Lee Ray. Sure, but to everyone else, he's Chucky. Chucky.
Your doll?
Not just any doll. This one's possessed by a serial killer who hunts a kid that loves killer cereal.
This looks just excellent.
So put on your best good guy PJs.
What do you think?
And watch Child's Play. Then on Sunday, tune in for the Kill Count recount, only on Dead Meat. I saw this one.
Child's Play can currently be watched on the pictured streaming platform.
I'm not gonna lie, the first time I saw Child's Play, the first time I saw Chucky, oh my god, I was terrified of him. I was like, man, get that thing away from me. But now I love Chucky.
Forms. Dead Meat always recommends you watch the movie for yourself before its kill count. It's the only way to have your own properly informed opinion. Kill counts are never meant to replace the experience of watching a film.
Thanks for watching this kill count. Sorry for the schedule change. I was originally going to cover Wolf Creek 2 right away, but some family stuff came up and I'm actually in Michigan as this video is released, so I had to record a bunch of stuff earlier and then shift some episodes around. Sorry, hope to get to it someday. Also,
right.
I think I got a good streak going, don't I? I want to thank some patrons like Danny, Papa Steve, Anthony Motino, Colin Karikis, Baron Von Nutsack, Eric Kennedy, Bo Evans, and Nicholas Wong. Thanks, everyone. Be good people.
Same to you, James. Same to you. Yeah, that freaking Wolf Creek, man. Like, that's terrible, man. That does make you feel bad when you find out that, man, it's based off of true events. Real people died. You're like, what? And that should be a lesson to everybody who, thinks about, freaking hitchhiking and all that. Like, man, don't do it, man. And if you're gonna do it, bring protection. Protect. Bring something that's gonna protect you and everybody else that you're probably hitchhiking with. Being a tourist or whatever. Always be careful. Yeah, that's why I don't do it. That's why I don't want to risk doing that. Like, man, I'm gonna come across somebody who. Who's friendly at first, be like, oh yeah, I'll help you out. And then, next thing I know, I'm freaking, I don't know, ended up like these people. Like, hell no, dude. I'd rather stay home. Screw that, man. Anyway, yeah, it's my reaction to Wolf Creek 2005 Kill Count by Dead Meat. I cannot wait for next week when we see, him recounting the Child's Play series. And yeah, everyone take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you in the next one.